Right. Welcome, everyone. So excited to have you with us today for our next installation of our webinar series, From Student to Professional, a Summer of Learning. As I always say, but I always do hope that you learn a lot during our time together. So what we're hoping to be able to cover during this hour are a couple of things. First, we want to be able to provide an overview of what program evaluation is. Then also, we want to be able to share a number of insights to help on that transition from being a student to becoming a professional. And then finally, what we also want to do, kind of sprinkled throughout the webinar, is just to introduce you to the Internship and Fellowship, or as what we call kind of together, the Experiential Learning Opportunity Program. So I'm Lana Rucks. I'm Principal Consultant with the Rucks Group, and I'm very excited to have with us as well Alyssa Horn. So Alyssa.
Hi, everyone. My name is Alyssa Horn, and I was a graduate research fellow with the Rucks Group this summer, and I'm also currently a pre-award evaluator with the firm. So I'm really excited to share my experiences with everyone today. So thank you all for being here.
Great, thank you. And we also have Spencer Queen.
Hi, everyone. I'm Spencer Queen. This summer, I was a research intern with the Rucks Group, and I am now a research associate with the firm. Looking forward to talking to everyone today.
Great, perfect. And then we also had a third individual who was a summer intern as well, and that was Jordan Harris. And while she wasn't able to actually join us in person today, she did provide comments. And so I'll be sharing some of the comments and lessons learned that she provided throughout the webinar as well. And so then also with us, as always, is Elise Hope. So I'm going to turn things over to her for a moment so she can introduce herself and tell you more about her role in the webinar today.
Thanks, Lana, and good afternoon, everyone. My name is Elise Hopes, and I'm the Outreach Coordinator with the Rucks Group. For today's webinar, however, I will be helping to facilitate the Q&A portions that are dispersed throughout the webinar. So as you may have questions come up as we're going through the webinar, feel free to use that question function on the right side of your screen, and it's denoted with that question mark symbol. I should mention that there is just a little bit of a delay from when you submit your question to when we receive it on our end. So if we don't get to it at that segment, we'll try to get to it at the next segment or at the end of the webinar. And any questions we don't get to, we'll be sure to follow up with you in email. There's also a chat function that we may use to share additional resources with you, but just keep in mind that this function will only appear when there's a new message for you to view. So be sure to keep a lookout for that. And I think with that, Lana, we can go ahead and get started.
All right, fabulous. Well, now that you've gotten to know who we are at kind of the individual level, let's talk for a moment about who the Rucks Group is, kind of the organizational level. So the Rucks Group is a research and program evaluation firm that gathers, analyzes, and interprets data to enable our clients to measure the impact of their work. And so there's a lot kind of packed within that. And while many of you may be familiar with research, you may not have as much familiarity with program evaluation. So let me unpack that for a moment. So first, in thinking about program evaluation uses very kind of traditional research methods and designs, those that you find in social science research, such as experimentation, quasi-experimental designs, comparison groups, things of that nature, as well as similar types of methods. So questionnaires, focus groups, again, kind of those types of approaches that you've encountered if you take in an intro research methods course. But then where program evaluation kind of differs as well, or kind of begins to differ, is in regards to the types of questions that are being asked. So research questions generally focus more on generation of knowledge, whereas evaluation questions typically much more focus in on either implementation of an initiative or focusing on the impact of that initiative. And then finally, program evaluation has a decidedly real-world context. So there are actual initiatives, interventions that are occurring in the real world and trying to assess the impact of that. So that's a real kind of brief overview of what program evaluation is. I would definitely encourage you, if you haven't come across one of the webinars that we've done before, which is So What Do You Want to Be When You Grow Up? A look into a unique, meaningful career for curious minds, for you to learn more about program evaluation in general, and then program evaluation as a field. All right. So with that all as context, let's start to get to know more about our experiential learners. So, Alyssa, do you mind start telling us a bit more about your story?
Yeah, of course. So I graduated from Bowling Green State University in 2021 with my Bachelor of Arts in Philosophy, Politics, Economics, and Law, or PPEL, and I also had a minor in Nonprofit Administration. So I will say that my first year of college did involve a lot of jumping around in terms of trying to decide what it was that I really wanted to major in and what I wanted to do after graduation. So I really knew that I wanted to help people, and I knew I really enjoyed public policy based work. So I'm really just worried, like I'm sure a lot of other students might be, about what would I do after graduation if I tried to combine those two different interests. But once I started in PPEL in nonprofit administration, I knew it was exactly where I was supposed to be. I really loved the versatility of the different courses and getting to take courses from multiple different departments at the university. And I also became a little bit more comfortable with a little bit of uncertainty about what my post graduation plans would look like. Now, towards the end of my bachelor's degree, I was pretty sure that I would go to graduate school, and I started looking at Master in Public Administration programs. And I did end up staying at Bowling Green State University to get my Master in Public Administration, or my MPA, and I'll be graduating with that degree in 2020, or December of 2022. So coming up here in about a month. And so part of the reason that I did stay at Bowling Green was a graduate assistantship, which I think really speaks to some of the influential experiences I had during both my undergraduate degree and my graduate degree. So while in my undergraduate program at Bowling Green, one of my most influential experiences was a grant writing internship that I had with the University Center for Public Impact. And I would say this experience really showed me that I enjoyed the opportunity to work with multiple different organizations, and the chance to really support multiple different programmatic missions. I really felt that that helped me to get at the root of getting to help people, which was something I was really interested in. And it also gave me the versatility of working with multiple different organizations. And so that really showed me that that was something that I might want to do long term as well. And then for graduate, when I was in graduate school, or while I'm in graduate school, I had a graduate assistantship and am finishing up that graduate assistantship with our Center for Regional Development. And this is the experience that really introduced me to program evaluation. It was in this assistantship that I ended up working on two different evaluation-based projects. And I absolutely fell in love with program evaluation and the way that I could use that experience to help organizations. And so that's kind of my background and some of the influential experiences that have led me to where I am today.
All right, great. Thank you so much, Alyssa. Spencer, can you tell us more about your background?
Of course. So I just graduated in May from Ohio Wesleyan University with a Bachelor of Arts in History and a Bachelor of Science in Quantitative Economics. Pretty similar to Alyssa, when I started in college, I did a lot of exploring. I wasn't 100% sure what I wanted to do with my career or with my major, but I knew what sort of academic and career skills I would want to develop and what sorts of tasks and types of learning I enjoyed doing. So I ended up taking two very different majors, but both that really complemented the skill set that I'm using now. In history, I learned how to write and communicate and do like more qualitative analyses. And in economics, I learned those more quantitative, harder skills, and knowing how to work with data and tell a story or conduct research that way. So as I graduated, I knew I wanted to work with data and research and helping people use that data in research in an impactful way, but I wasn't sure I wanted to go into academia. So I wanted to do something a little bit more hands-on and on the ground. And that like knowledge of knowing I wanted to work with data and data analytics led me to program evaluation. I also worked in a similar research role in the historical side. I worked at the special collections and archives at my university, and that really made me kind of sparked the passion in me for helping people do research that was meaningful to them, because I was helping a wide range of clients do historical and genealogical research, which isn't you may not think is exactly related to what I'm doing today, but I found that I got a lot of transferable skills and aptitudes out of doing that. So, and that's where it takes me to today.
All right, fabulous. Thanks so much, Spencer. Let me give a little bit of background about Jordan Herricks. So Jordan graduated from Purdue University this past May with a Bachelor's of Arts in Spanish and a Bachelor's of Science in Brain and Behavioral Sciences. In her introduction, or some of her experiences were an introduction to the role of data through undergraduate research and coursework. And specifically, she shared how she was heavily involved in undergraduate research across the fields of psychology, biostatistics, and public health. And that she had this unique experience as part of her public health research experience to lead a committee that assessed the effectiveness of water safety intervention on rural waterborne illness rates. And this is where she was first introduced to program evaluation. So as you can tell, there's quite a diverse but impressive set of backgrounds from each of the experiential learners. So why don't we take a moment and just pause there and see if there are any questions?
Yes, we do have a few questions. One, can you share more about the difference between an internship and a fellowship?
Yes. So the internship is really intended to be focused for individuals who are at the undergraduate experience, and the fellowship experience is more intended for people who are students who are at the graduate level. So as a consequence of their different experiences, coursework, there's varying levels of expectations in terms of what types of projects that they're given, and then also just the number of projects that they're working on. That's at least in theory. I think that there was probably in practice, I think that was definitely true. Maybe Alyssa and Spencer could speak to that kind of from their experience, but that really it's intended to understand that it's a distinction to understand that an undergraduate student is coming with different experience than a graduate student. And Alyssa or Spencer, do you have anything else to add on that from your perspectives of kind of going through that?
I would say, yeah, that pretty much covers it. I do know that Alyssa had a bit more exposure to some more nuanced concepts in program evaluation than I did. So definitely the graduate degree versus undergraduate degree makes a big difference.
Yeah, I would agree. And it just gave the chance, I know one example that sticks out. So for some of the experiential learning topics, I was able to apply them a little bit more to project-based work because I had a little bit more experience with them. So for example, one of the first weeks I was able to work on an evaluation plan for a project because I had already had some experience doing some of the things that went into an evaluation plan. And so I would definitely agree with what's been said already.
Good. Thanks for adding those thoughts.
Yes, thank you all. There is another question. How does data science connect to program evaluation?
I will jump in on that one. And I know this because Jordan helped in terms of her research project to help us kind of understand some of those connections between data science and program evaluation and data analytics. I think, and this is something that we probably will get to later in the webinar as well, with the way that the program's set up and why her work was focused in on this. But program evaluation, one of the ways that you can kind of think about program evaluation within this kind of broader data analytics space is that it's just a specialized form of data analytics, and that data science typically deals with big data and program evaluation typically doesn't. You're dealing with smaller data sets, like smaller medium data. So as a consequence of the size of the data, your analytical tools tend to differ. But that's at the heart of the difference between data science and program evaluation.
Excellent, thank you.
Was that, okay.
There's just one more question,
Okay.
and this one's directed for Alyssa. Can you share more about one of the projects you worked on before coming to the Rucks Group?
Yeah, so I'll share one of the projects that I worked on related to my graduate assistantship, and that was I had the opportunity to work on an infant mortality study in Lucas County, Ohio. We worked with an organization whose goal it was to really reduce infant mortality rates, especially among Black mothers, because there was a large disparity seen in the infant mortality rates between white and Black mothers. And so we actually did an evaluation for the organization whose goal it was to do those things. And so we got to work really closely with them to review their program and see what was working well and what improvements could be made. And it was a really great experience working with a community organization and getting to really see the impacts of an evaluation firsthand. And so that was really a really beneficial experience that I got to have in my graduate assistantship.
All right.
Thank you. Those are all the questions for right now, Lana.
Okay, perfect. Thank you so much for asking those questions and continue to make sure to use the question function to ask additional questions. So let's continue and let's talk about how each of the learners, Alyssa and Spencer, came to the Rucks Group and came to this experience. So Alyssa, why don't you get us started?
Yeah, so as I mentioned, it was really my graduate assistantship that encouraged me to pursue an experience where I could do evaluation work full time. I really wanted to see if the interest that I developed in evaluation would persist once I was doing the work full time and doing the work in an organization that focused primarily on research and evaluation. And so that was really what I was looking for as I started to look for an internship or fellowship experience for the summer of 2022. So I came across the Rucks Group fellowship on my university's job board, which is called Handshake. And once I read the job description, I knew I was interested immediately. I ended up doing some further research on the firm, and I also ended up watching a recording of the So What Do You Want to Be When You Grow Up webinar. And after that, I knew that this was an organization that I really was hoping to be a part of as a fellow, and so I decided that I was interested in applying. And so some of the key things that really attracted me to the role as I was doing that research, and the first was definitely the nature of the work. So one of the other evaluation projects that I got to work on was education-based in my graduate assistantship. And so while that was focused at the K through 12 level, the Rucks Group did a lot of work focused at the post-secondary level. And so I was really interested in their work that they were doing to advance educational equity at the post-secondary college level. And so I was really attracted to the opportunity to kind of stay within that realm of work that I had found I was interested in. And then in being completely transparent as a college student, the compensation associated with the fellowship was something that was really important to me. I was living in Bowling Green at the time and had a 12-month lease and wouldn't have been able to break my lease. And so it was really important for me to be paid. And then that leads to the next point too, that the fellowship experience was primarily remote. And so I could live and work in Bowling Green and still get this really incredible experience with the Rucks Group, even though the firm is located in Dayton, Ohio. And then the last point that I will make is in terms of once I actually had the chance to interview for the position, and I got to hear from Lana and then Julia, who's our director of research and evaluation services, I knew that I was just hoping for an email or call that I would be offered a position with the firm, because I really loved the emphasis of both the hands-on learning component of getting to work on different projects and getting to learn from these incredible evaluators, and also the emphasis on professional development and learning more about myself and exactly what it was that I wanted to do after graduation. So after the interview and all of the research that I had done, like I said, I was just crossing my fingers and hoping to hear a positive word back, because I really wanted to be a part of the program. And so that's really my whole journey to the Rucks Group. And I'm really happy that I got the chance to be a part of the program this past summer.
All right, fabulous. Thanks so much for that context. Spencer, do you mind sharing your story?
Yeah, of course. So as I was getting closer to graduation, I was looking around for roles that I could use my research and data analytics skills outside of an academic setting and more in a real world setting, working on like pretty concrete projects. So I was applying to things in public policy and the government and some think tanks and stuff. And I was talking to our career services center at my university, who connected me to the Rucks Group and alerted me about this internship program. And I started exploring it, and it sounded interesting. And I attended the So What Do You Want to Be When You Grow Up webinar, and thought that kind of sparked my curiosity even more. But the thing that really like pushed me to apply was our career services office put me in touch with Alyssa Hokey, who is also a research associate at the firm, who's not with us today. But we spoke, and she was just very excited about her work and willing to share how she got into her current position, what skills she uses, and just the like enthusiasm and willingness to just talk to me was like really exciting to me. And I found that really like pushed me to apply. Also, as I learned more about the position itself, I was excited about the opportunity to work on actual projects in the real world and like have an impact on their results, how they develop, and how they like incorporate the firm's feedback into their work. And I knew this was like really important to me. I wanted to be able to like see the impact my work was having on people, and I was really excited once I learned about that opportunity. And finally, I noticed through my conversations with Alyssa and just my reading of the job description that I already had some skills that aligned with what the firm was doing. So my like research and data skills, and also particular pieces of software that I had been exposed to and like had developed skills using were also being used by the firm. So I think there was all around a combination of like my long-term career interests and my practical skill set that I had developed that just like aligned and made me apply for a job. And yeah, just also just the fact that speaking with everyone, whether it was Alyssa before or Juana and Julia at the interview, everyone was just very kind and polite and inviting and made it seem like an exciting place to work. So yeah.
All right, wonderful. Thanks so much to both of you for sharing that context and your experiences. So why don't we take a moment and pause there for questions. I have a question for Alyssa and Spencer, but I'm going to have Elise, if there are questions there, let me see if there are questions first, and then I have a follow-up question as well.
Sure. There are a couple of questions. One is there a particular college major that yields a good fit for an evaluation associate?
And I'm assuming that makes, is there a particular, not major per se, I think it's the differences in experiences. So I think that having experiences in research methods, having experiences in quantitative methods, one of the pieces, and you'll keep hearing us go back to the So What Do You Want to Be When You Grow Up webinar that we emphasize in that in that webinar was just the diversity of experiences. That I am one that I tease and say I'm an intellectual mutt. And so I like I've had lots of different experiences, and you never know what types of experiences you're pulling from to be able to do program evaluation work. But those skills in terms of being analytical, being critical, I think are really key. And I think that that's why if you look at Alyssa, Spencer, and Jordan, look at their backgrounds, they have very different majors, but they really bring a lot of depth to the work. And I think that having different experiences, but still having that quantitative background, research method, critical thinking background is what's going to serve you well. I'll turn it over to Alyssa and Spencer for additional thoughts from your perspective.
Yeah, I would definitely agree with that. Sorry, Spencer. I would say it's more so the courses that you take and also the work-based experiences that you get as well. I think that there are a lot of majors that you can really garner a lot of relevant skills to program evaluation. And so I think it's just learning, and picking out what are the skills that you're learning in the major that you're in, and how could those skills apply to program evaluation. And so, for me, research methods was really important. But some of my classes on policy-based work are helpful too in understanding some of the federal grant-making processes. And so I think, again, it's just honing in on those skills and what are you taking away from your courses and how can you kind of capitalize on the things that you're learning and see how they're relevant to the field of program evaluation.
Mm-hmm. Good point.
Yeah, I would echo a similar thing. I think your courses matter a lot more than like what your degree actually says. But some exposure to like social science research methods is probably the number one thing I would recommend, or at least that's been most helpful to me. And I've noticed that's a pretty common background across the firm, is just knowing how to do some exposure to statistics, to data analysis, and to just general research methods is pretty good. So that could be across economics, psychology, sociology, but really seizing as many opportunities as you can to work with the more quantitative sides of those fields is beneficial.
Yeah, and just not to belabor a point, I would say those experiences that Alyssa and Spencer both spoke to are really key when we're looking at who's going to be a part of the experiential learning program. We really like individuals who've had that research experience within their institutions so that they have a foundation around those basic social science methods, and then we can build off of that. So, great question. Is there another question?
There is another question. It sounds like you both attended the So What Do You Want to Be webinar before applying. What, if anything, stood out to you from that webinar?
Yeah, I can take a stab at that. Sort of similar to what I mentioned before in the previous question, was just the range of backgrounds that were all working at the same firm was really interesting to me. I remember Alyssa and Julia, not this Alyssa, another Alyssa who also works at the Rucks Group, were sharing just how they came to the firm, and I was really struck by the different mix of skills that were all going into the same work. And to me, I went to a liberal arts school, and I've always just appreciated pulling from just many different fields and kind of dabbling in a little bit of everything, but also having some general structure to sort of orient you is really important. So I think that was the most intriguing part to me about the So What Do You Want to Be When You Grow Up webinar. Just in terms of academic background and different experiences, there's just a wide range here.
Yeah, and I was actually going to make a very similar point. So even though I had the experience in evaluation-based work through my graduate assistantship, one of my main fears is always that my academic background wasn't going to align well with a position in an evaluation firm. And so it was really reassuring to listened to all of the different paths that individuals had taken to the Rucks Group, and it really made me more confident in applying for the position because, kind of like Spencer mentioned, a lot of them talked about how they had these different backgrounds, how they ended up at the Rucks Group, and how they had really utilized skills that they had learned from multiple different fields and experiences to help them to be successful within their roles. And so I started to see, like, I do have these skills that I've gained through my bachelor's degree and now my master's degree. And while maybe they're not, maybe I didn't always see them as being relevant, especially my bachelor's degree, they definitely are. And so just to reiterate Spencer's point, it was really reassuring to hear that there isn't a set path into evaluation, and you can really capitalize on the experiences that you've had and the skills that you've gained through those.
Good points and good insights. I know we're going to have to move on to the next section here in a moment, but I did have a quick question because I noticed that both of you talked about connecting to career services or the job board or something of that nature. Just more broadly, in thinking about that transition from being a student to a professional, what do you think is the role, or how should individuals engage with career services at their institutions?
I would say, at the very least, understand and go to your career services office, understand what services they offer to you as a current student and also an alumni as well. Because I know at Bowling Green and at most colleges, they offer services to you both when you're a student and after you've graduated. So understand what's available to you. Even though I applied through our university job board, and that's where I came across the posting and didn't necessarily talk to anyone. Had I not gone to career services in the past for assistance on other things, I likely wouldn't have been checking the university job board for those positions. And so, because I had engaged with them in the past, I knew to look there as I was looking for these opportunities. So, I would say at the very least, engage with them, understand what resources are available to you. And even if you are just going to them and making those relationships to do other things, you're probably going to learn a lot by utilizing those services available to you. So overall, utilize the services, understand what's available, and definitely talk with them. I've always had really great experiences and learned a lot. So, yeah.
Very good.
Yeah, if I could just add on one quick thing. My biggest piece of advice with career services is don't feel like you have to have a very particular question to go. Don't think that like, oh, I need help applying for this internship, so I'm going to go to career services. I'd say go early and often. And even if you have something vague, like these are my skills, these are my interests, let me know what's out there and just establish that relationship. That's going to be a really big investment. That's really easy to make. That's going to pay off pretty well in your future, because career services might say like, just shoot you an email and say like, hey, this company's hiring and I think you'd be a really good fit based on your interests that you would never even have known about had you not established those relationships.
Great. I think that those are really great thoughts and insights and suggestions. So thank you for sharing that. I'm not sure if there are more questions, but we're going to go on. We'll have another question break or a couple of more question breaks where we'll be able to pause. But let me go to the next portion, which is in regards to key learnings and takeaways from the experiential learning program. So before we hear from Alyssa, Spencer, and then some thoughts from Jordan, let me at least give you an overview of what's involved in this program. So first, as we've been sharing, that there's an internship and fellowship. So there's the internship that's targeted for undergraduate students and then a fellowship for graduate students. But regardless if it's the internship or fellowship, these are the about 5 elements that we're really focusing in on. So one, we're focusing in on skill development, so that technical skill development. And that really involves aspects that are related to evaluation. So like evaluation planning, logic modeling, data analytics and data analysis, data visualization, report writing, and like survey development, focus groups, things of that nature. So it runs the gamut around planning, gathering data, and then writing that data up. And so each week we have a focused topic, and I should say that the experiential learning program is 10 weeks long. Each week we have a different topic of focus, and we introduce that topic at the beginning of the week. There's an exercise that's completed throughout the week, and then we kind of connect at the end of the week as wrap up on that exercise. The other piece that we do as well is we introduce the learners to an actual client project. So we actually will talk to our clients, selected projects, and let them know or get permission from them that there will be an experiential learner working on that project. And they all really embrace that because we work within higher ed and they're trying to give those types of experiences to their students. So they're incredibly welcoming when we ask them if we can have a learner to work on their projects. And they are actually working on actual survey developments, actually sitting in on meetings. And I think this is really key to really being able to observe the work of evaluation or just the work of a professional overall. The other component that we do as well, and if you've heard Alyssa and Spencer talk about this already, is professional development. So we want to make sure that we're helping in terms of the development of each of the students overall. And so towards that end, we have a book club discussion. We have these touch bases on Friday afternoons for that book club discussion. We may also have guest speakers that are coming in and sharing their experiences, in which there can be really this real kind of casual exchange of information about how they got to the field, how they got to where they are, and then just any kind of broad questions that the experiential learners may have of those individuals. Then something that I mentioned before as well is this special topic research. So special topic research is essentially decided on in kind of collaboration with our team, our kind of full-time team, core team, and the experiential learners. So as the core team, we'll identify topics that we're interested in, and we'll have a variety of topics. And then we'll introduce those to the experiential learners, and then they get to pick which ones are of interest to them. So there's real alignment between what our interests are as a firm and then what their interests are as well. And what's really fun about that is at the end of the summer, the experiential learners are the experts on that, and they get to teach us about what they've learned, and we get to ask them questions. So I think that that's a great experience for them, and it's a great experience for us as well. And then finally, we overall are just providing a really supportive environment. There are weekly touch bases with individuals on the team, again, to have these real kind of casual, informal conversations about how everything's going along, how things are progressing, what concerns and issues that they may be experiencing, so that we can quickly address those components. We also, just as a team, meet daily in the morning as what we call a daily huddle, where we just have those water cooler moments, and then also just share out information or needs that we need from other team members and what our priorities are for that day. So all of that together really makes the program. And I should say too, when we've shared what type of program that we have, we've received a lot of really positive feedback from individuals. And then sometimes people ask, like, why are you making the investment in this? And I would say that partly the answer to that is a response that I gave to my daughter, who right now is completing her college applications, and she's been feeling really badly about asking people for recommendations, asking them for the assistance that she needs in terms of being able to complete those packages. And I told her, I said, you shouldn't feel badly about asking this at all, because the only way that any of us are where we are is because somebody else helped us. And so the whole reason for this program is because without the number of programs, the number of mentors that I've had, I wouldn't be where I am here. So this is us just kind of paying it forward. So with that as context, let me just kind of turn it over to Alyssa for her to share what some of her takeaways were from this experience. Alyssa?
Yeah, thank you, Lana. So my first key takeaway is that I found that I really enjoy developmental evaluation and getting to work closely with project teams. And so before the experience at the Rucks Group, I knew that I was interested in evaluation work. I knew that that was probably what I wanted to do once I graduated. But the Rucks Group Fellowship really gave me a better idea of what kind of work do I want to do? What kind of evaluation work am I interested in? How closely do I want to be involved in project teams? And so I think that's really important because it just gave me a better idea of what exactly is it that I want to do, not just this general idea of I want to do evaluation. Now I know I want to do this type of evaluation and I want to be this involved. Building on that, I would also say that this experience just solidified and showed me even more the impact that evaluation can have on project teams. So the work that the Rucks Group does is really meaningful, and I think that speaks to the fact that a lot of the work that we do is developmental evaluation. And because we work so closely with project teams, we're able to provide that information to them in real time, and they're able to make changes to their project and the work as they go because they're working so closely with the evaluation team, and we're able to provide such pertinent information and data to them that really helps them to be successful. And so I think this really just solidified to me just how meaningful evaluation can be on different projects. And then the last takeaway for me was the Rucks Group team was incredible. And so it really showed me the type of firm that I want to work for and the type of people that I want to work with. And so throughout the summer, every full-time staff member at the Rucks Group treated us just like they would any other full-time staff member. They treated us like we were full members of the team, and they also provided a lot of support to us. So whether we had additional questions about the project-based work that we were doing or questions about our special topics research, there was always somebody who was willing to provide that support to us. And everyone also shared their professional development insights as well, which was really helpful in terms of that professional development that was provided to us. Was, to hear from members of the team of how did you get here, what would you recommend, so those types of things. And so along these lines too, the last point that I wanted to make was we really got a voice in our experience. And so if we voiced wanting to learn something, we really got that experience. And so one example that comes to mind is I was in a meeting with Lana and Julia about halfway through the summer, and I mentioned that I felt like I didn't have a lot of facilitation experience. I didn't have a lot of experience running meetings. And so within 2 weeks, they had the experiential learners running some of those daily huddles that Lana mentioned. So that way we were getting that facilitation experience. And so it really just speaks to the fact that the Rucks Group wants this to be an incredible experience, and they're learning as they go too. And so they're really, like, as an evaluation firm, they're also doing internal evaluation and trying to make things better for everyone that works here. And so as a fellow, it was really great to have a voice in my own experience and to be able to go to individuals and say, hey, like, I kind of want to learn this, and to have that positive feedback of, okay, let's help you learn it, was really incredible. And so those are some of my main takeaways from the summer about the experience.
All right. Thanks so much, Alyssa. I really appreciate those comments. Spencer.
Yeah, my first big takeaway was learning how to incorporate data analysis and data visualization to like tell the story of a project. And you're using data to communicate something very concrete.
I think that
rather than just in my undergrad, it was just to answer a textbook question. I'm sorry?
I think you were starting to break up just a little bit on us. Do you want to, why don't you try turning off your camera for a moment and see if that will help? All right.
Is this better?
Yes, it is.
Okay. You all are still frozen to me, but if my audio is working, that's fine, I guess. All right. Yeah, so I was just saying that incorporating data analyses and data visualizations to help a project team improve their projects is really interesting because
Oh no. Well, Spencer, I'm going to go ahead as you're kind of working through some of the audio challenges. I'm going to go ahead and go through some of the other pieces that I know you had highlighted here as some takeaways. So another takeaway that you highlighted was being able to learn where evaluation fits within the broader federal grant ecosystem. And hearing you talk about this before is just in regards that kind of navigating through the federal grant system can really be complicated. So really being able to get introduced to components of that was really helpful. And then also, I think, and you're back. Do you want to take it over from takeaway point number 3, or do you want me to?
Is my audio? Can you all hear me well
I can
now?
hear you now. Yeah.
Okay, not really sure what happened there, but yeah, I can sort of pick up where you left off.
Just starting with point number 3, so you can start from there.
Right. Yeah, I think you did a good job covering the other ones, but yeah, I really liked that professional development and reflecting on your personal career goals and values was sort of baked into the internship experience. I know other people who got internships and that was not a core piece of their internship. They're just expected to carry out their tasks, not. So I just like that when I came to the Rucks Group, I got a chance to work on project work, develop skills, and also the firm invested in my long-term career trajectory, which they were under really no obligation to do. And I really just appreciated that the firm makes like people who they think are going to be successful and wants to invest in their success no matter where they go. So I really appreciated that, and a big takeaway for me.
Great. And I was going to tease and say, because of the internship, you can deal with technical difficulties with great aplomb. So thank you for handling that so well. Let me go on and kind of share some pieces with Jordan. What Jordan kind of shared and highlighted, I think, is echoed through the comments from Alyssa and Spencer as well, which was one piece that she said that finding a team that encourages and embraces a growth mindset was really encouraging. She noted that the company culture at the Rucks Group stood out during her internship because everyone truly embraced and encouraged a growth mindset. And this meant that everyone on the team was eager to learn new information or improve upon things they already knew. And so something else that she learned from that type of environment is really becoming comfortable with being challenged and learning new things. And that in order to pursue excellence, you're going to have to get comfortable with being uncomfortable in a sense. And so the final takeaway for her was that it really helped to establish her journey to becoming a social science researcher. She's interested in working on applying to graduate school right now, and so really helped to broaden her perspective on what careers can look like in applied settings. So thank you again to all of you for those really great insights and comments. Let's go ahead and pause here for a moment and see if there are any additional questions, Elise.
Yes, there are a couple of questions. One individual asked, if this is my last semester in graduate school, would I still be encouraged to apply?
Yes, you can still apply. I think we've had individuals who are graduating. Some people who are graduating. Some people who are still in the kind of finishing off their degrees. But either way, I think you can apply. Yes.
Thank you. The other question is, what were your special topics, your special research topics, and how has that research been used, or how has it informed your work?
So my special topic was on something called appreciative inquiry, which really appreciative inquiry is just taking a strengths-based approach to the questions that you ask when you're doing evaluation-based work. So when you go in and you're working with a project team, instead of asking what's going wrong, you are going to ask what's going on and what would the ideal situation look like. So you're really going to take a positive look at different things that are happening within a project. And I would say in terms of informing my work, I've had a chance to use appreciative inquiry, partially because I'm still in graduate school and only working part-time. But I think it really is just, it gives me a different mindset into going into projects, because every project that the Rucks Group works on, the project team they all have really incredible visions of things that they want to do to make the country and their program and their universities a better place. And so I think just in working closely with project teams, I think it's important to go into it and remember that the work that they're doing and the vision that they have is really incredible, and to really capitalize on that, to make sure that projects can be the best, or can be the best that they can. And so I would say, looking forward, I can see how appreciative inquiry, or that's how I'll use appreciative inquiry as I start in a full-time role after graduation.
Great, perfect.
And I did my special topics research on something called fuzzy regression discontinuity design. And I will not belabor the details, but it's essentially a quasi-experimental research methodology. So we can kind of see the impact of an intervention without having to randomly assign control in experimental groups. And that started directly affecting my work very soon after I did it, after I joined the firm, because we do have a project that is the method we are going with. And so I've had senior evaluators kind of like deferring to me and asking me questions about how we implement it. And I've been pretty involved with discussions around the real world challenges of implementing this design. Things that come up are like, do we have enough data to do this? Or given the special considerations of the funding or other elements of the project, how do we still develop a rigorous design given these real world constraints? So I was really surprised in how quickly I was able to just use this knowledge I had built up to do an actual project. And so, yeah, I thought it was very relevant.
Very good. And I was going to say very quickly, too, was Jordan's topic was focusing on kind of the on data science specifically, and helping us to understand where program evaluation lives within that space. And so I really appreciate the question on data science, because of her research, I think I have a better understanding of that. And so that, I think it was clarifying for all of us, of really understanding what the boundaries of data science are. And then it really helped us to inform why, kind of where we're seeing a lot of overlap with data science, with IT, because in many ways we're living in that space without kind of consciously realizing how much we were living in that space, with the overlap with coding, with AI, R, Python, things of that nature. And so it really just helps us to understand better this current context, considering that evaluation is an older field. And so our perspective is a kind of an older perspective on it, and trying to understand how does that align with this new field. So that was incredibly helpful for us. So, wow, we have about 7 minutes left, but we do have some more information that we want to share. So let's go on for a moment with some words of advice. So Alyssa, can you share out some kind of words of advice, kind of summaries of what you would like to share with the students who are in attendance today?
Yeah, of course. So I would say my first piece of advice would be to start networking as early as you can. And a really great way to do this is by leveraging professional organizations that are associated with what you want to do. So if you're really interested in evaluation, the American Evaluation Association is a really great way to get involved. And there's also a lot of state organizations. So for example, I'm involved in the Ohio Program Evaluators Group, and then I'm involved in a city organization as well. And so I would recommend this because, first, joining these types of organizations can really connect you to a large group of professionals within the field that you're interested in. And a lot of these organizations, including the American Evaluation Association, offer student discounts. And so that kind of eliminates some of the barriers to joining these organizations, because You can usually join for cheaper if you're a student. And then also, by having this opportunity to start networking, you can start reaching out to people, start asking questions. I really found that people are more than willing to answer your questions and talk with you as long as you're asking in a kind way. I think we often shy away from asking for advice because we're worried that people will say no. But I found more often than not, A, they're not saying no, and the worst that can happen is that they do say no. Nobody's ever going to say no rudely. So just reach out, join these organizations, ask for advice, network with people and organizations that you're interested in. And then the second piece of advice would be to seek these work-based learning opportunities, such as the experiential learning program that we've been talking about throughout this webinar. And I think this applies regardless of whether you're interested in program evaluation. Whatever career that you're interested in, look for these opportunities where you can get that hands-on experience and really determine what it is, or if you're really interested in the work that you're doing in those opportunities. I really think you gain so much personal and professional knowledge by engaging in internships and fellowships and these experiences where you get to first do the work yourself and also learn from individuals doing the work every day. And I think this can just really be pivotal in understanding and really knowing and finding what it is that you want to do as a career. And so overall, if you're interested in evaluation, definitely apply for the experiential learning program with the Rucks Group. But overall, just find these opportunities that you can get that experience in and apply for them because they can be really great learning experiences.
All right, great. Spencer.
Yeah, my first piece of advice would be no matter what your career path is, I would start with your unique skill set and look at the skills you are already good at, that you enjoy doing, or that you might potentially enjoy doing. I found a good question that I always like to ask people is, what feels like work to others that doesn't feel like work to you? And that's a really good place to identify, like, here are some like very usable skills that might help me in my career. And then identify like similar ones that you might be interested in pursuing or developing further, and then start testing if you're good at that, if you like it. And yeah, just build up your skill set because that's something you can always do no matter what stage of your life, degree, job you're in. You can always be improving your skills. And the second thing I would recommend is that you look at positions you're interested in and people who are in those positions and sort of work backwards from where they are and see how they got there. Because the more of these, I guess, data points you collect on people, and I just mean this through like conversations, through networking, the more you'll realize that there's not always a clear path in terms of credentials or formal things you do, like degrees, particular job roles, but there is usually a pattern in terms of skills they've developed and experiences they've had. So if you can sort of start teasing out what those skills and experiences are in roles you're interested in, the more you'll be able to go back to the first thing I said and start seeing if you can develop those skills and how much you enjoy them. And that's just, to me, a very effective and often more actionable method than just looking at, say, like job requirements or something like that.
All right, great. Thank you to you both. So hopefully you're interested in learning more about this experiential learning opportunity. So to learn more first, we encourage you to go to the So What Do You Want to Be When You Grow Up webinar and watch that, review that. And if you have any questions, please, of course, feel free to actually reach out to us. And feel free specifically to reach out to Alyssa and Spencer with any questions that you may have. Also, in terms of just the logistics of applying, just visit our website. There on the website, you will be able to go to the About Us page. I will say, I'm just thinking about this, it still will be the About Us page, but it will look different between now and December because we're updating our website. So don't panic if the website looks different now versus December, January. It still will be in the About Us page. And actually, when it gets updated, it actually may be a little bit easier to find. But right now, if you go to the About Us, scroll all the way down, there will be links to either the fellowship or the internship opportunity. And just make sure that you submit your applications by Friday, January 27th at midnight. So there's more information on the website. Again, you can also reach out to Alyssa and Spencer. We're very close to time, but we will see if there is an additional question that we can answer here quickly. Elise?
Yes, there is one more question that we can go for. Someone asked if you could clarify what is meant by work-based learning.
Right, work-based learning. Alyssa, you said that. Do you want to?
Yeah, so by work-based learning, what I was referring to is just finding experiences where you can take your academic interest and get actual career experience. So whether it's an internship or a fellowship, working with an organization that's going to allow you to combine your academic interest in a career setting. So doing work that you might actually be doing to see if you enjoy the actual work associated with whatever the field is that you're interested in. So, for example, for me, I was very interested in evaluation. So I wanted to see, do I actually enjoy full time doing the things that go into an evaluation? Do I enjoy evaluation planning, developing surveys, writing reports, engaging with clients? And so my work-based learning experience gave me experience doing all of those things.
All right, perfect. Well, that brings us to time. Thank you to the individuals who are here in attendance. Hopefully, like I said, you learned a lot of information. And thank you to Alyssa and Spencer and Elise for being here and helping with this whole presentation. Elise and then Alyssa and Spencer for just sharing out your experiences. I know that that was an incredible help for so many individuals. Again, reach out if you have questions, and I hope you all have a great rest of the day. All right, thanks. Bye-bye.